There's a new video that came out from Palantir's channel. It's a 20-minute video. That's what I want to do in this video. And it's about Tampa Hospital. And Palantir has been absolutely smashing healthcare. We're probably going to get this NHS contract. Another rumor came out that we got it today. Yesterday, I made a video about Cleveland Clinic. And remember, 2.5 years ago, Palantir started Palantir Health with 4 engineers for Cleveland Clinic and I think HCA, 2 hospitals. I think those are the 2. They went from nothing, and then like 8 weeks later, they had 2 programs for these people. 2 years ago, they had 1% of the healthcare market, the United States. I'm talking about hospital beds. By the end of last year, they had around 10%. 6 months ago, it was 13%. And now they have 16% of all hospital beds in the United States run on Palantir 360. That's going to keep increasing because now you have Palantir AIP, which stands for Palantir Artificial Intelligence Platform. If you guys are unaware and don't do your research, Palantir AIP allows you to take the value from KLLMs and extract that value from your specific proprietary data and allow you to be the most efficient, productive you that you can be. And by you, I mean your government, your business, locally, internationally, both military and non-military. So it's absolutely freaking massive, bro. We're about to watch this in just a moment.
My name is Eder Hong. I'm the Senior Director of Analytics at TGH, Tampa General Hospital in Tampa, Florida. We are here today to talk about establishing an analytics program around Palantir's Foundry and AIP. At Tampa General, we have a shared purpose and a shared vision around healing, teaching, and innovating. We have an aspiration to be the safest and most innovative academic health system in America. It's a lofty vision that has really just started around 6-7 years ago, back in 2017. We've seen a massive amount of growth. In the short period of time, we've seen our surgeries expand out to 42.
So this is actually what I wanted to look at. So one of the nation's leading academic health systems, I like to see how big an organization is that's using Palantir. The bigger, the better, obviously, because they have so much more reach. So Tampa Hospitals has 700 plus residents and fellows, 60 plus training program, 14,000 staff, 100 locations, 2.2 billion operating revenue. They do 682 transplants, level 1 trauma center, 7,207 deliveries, 1,120 beds. So compared to Cleveland Clinic, they're actually a lot smaller because Cleveland Clinic has 7,000 beds, right? Very important. And they do 42,000 surgeries per year. So they are freaking massive, guys. They are absolutely a behemoth of a system.
2,000 surgeries a year. We've seen our revenue jump from $1 billion to a little over $2.5 billion in annual revenue. We've seen over 7,200 deliveries, and our current hospital has around 1,100 beds. We're in the process of growing that. Over the last several years, we've really transformed our organization from being a community hospital with a single hospital to being a hub and spoke model where we are expanding our reach for clinical care all throughout the state of Florida. So we've got sites in Tampa Bay, Orlando, Fort Myers, Cape Coral, East Coast of Florida. What we're really doing is expanding even our footprint within Tampa. We're building out what we're calling the medical and research district. And so what started off as one site has now expanded into over a dozen sites throughout Tampa. And you'll see it in the map here. Tampa General Hospital was originally on an island, and it still is. But now we have freestanding emergency department, a rehab center. We've partnered with the University of South Florida to build a medical center, urgent cares throughout the city and the state. So we've been doing a massive expansion. Back in 2007, when John and Forrest arrived, we went from 17 TGH locations to now in 2023, well over 150 locations. So you can see the expansion has been really rapid. And with that expansion, we felt the need that the Davis Island in Tampa also required some upgrades as well too. So we are in the process of building a 530,000 square foot new tower with 32 new ORs and an additional 144 beds. So The main campus will add quite a bit more beds. So this will become one of the largest hospitals in the state of Florida. And so with that comes a lot of tertiary and quaternary care. We do a lot of complex cases, and we really want to expand on our vision on being one of the safest and most innovative by healing and defining medicine. So this expansion plan, of course, comes with a lot of growing pains as well, too. And it really gets to our analytic journey. We always look at our journey map by looking at the pre-John Corus and post. We look at the growth and the evolution of the organization. And as you can see in the line graph here, the dark dots represent the organizational growth. Post John Corus, our new health system president, we saw a rapid increase in the organization, as you saw in the prior graphs and slides. Just the physical footprint has grown, but the complexity of our organization has also grown as well. And when you look at the green dots, that looks at our analytic capabilities. And you'll see over the last 5 years, the organization has grown rapidly, but our analytic capabilities have not. One of the
Just want to take a look at this really, really fast. So they're saying that the organization keeps growing, but their capacity or analytics is lagging behind. So they used to be closer here, and then the gap is widening here. That's what they're trying to say. So they have a problem that their analytics is lagging behind their capabilities or their expansion. So obviously that's where Palantir comes into play. It's very, very interesting. It means something because you want to know exactly why they're using Palantir.
Founding principles of our vision and our mission in the organization is competing on analytics. And in order to be able to do that, we have to have data at the table of every discussion, every strategic initiative that we do, every clinical decision that we're doing, that we would be able to base.
Guys, I just wanted to make it clear. This line right here is where they are right now. This is where they are right now. This is them right here. Last 5 years. And you see this gap keeps getting bigger because some people might say, well, Adam, the gap is getting smaller. The reason the gap is getting smaller is because of Palantir right here. You see what I'm saying? Look at the gap before. This is like a 1-inch gap, and this is like a 1/3 of an inch gap. For example, I'm just giving you guys some metrics. And it's going to keep getting smaller and smaller and come back together the same way that it was 5 years ago. So 5 years ago, their capabilities are expanding. Their analytics are staying flat. Because of Palantir, their expansion is going to increase, but so is their analytical capabilities.
Base that off of sound data and be able to leverage data to drive decisions and better clinical outcomes. And so that first portion of it where you'll see the widening capability gap, we call that Analytics Hub 1.0. We recognized the need. We identified barriers in our organization. And then Analytics Hub 2.0 is really where we start closing the gap. And that's really where our partnership with Palantir started and the reason why we went down that path. First, what I wanted to go over were some of the barriers that drove us to identifying the need for closing that data gap. And so we identified 4 primary barriers. One, we didn't really have a comprehensive analytics, BI, and AI strategy. Speed to market was a struggle for us. There was a lot of point solutions out there and a lot of capabilities, but they were all disconnected. They were siloed in their respective areas. We had a lot of garbage in, garbage out, and we had challenges understanding and analyzing the data that we had in front of us. And so in order to address those things, we really looked for a partnership, not just picking something up off the shelf, but we were looking for a partner that really understood data. And so with that, we set together a strategic vision around people, processes, and technology, with technology being probably the least important. However, for us, it was integral for us to create the right foundation. And so when you look at our technology vision, it starts with data infused everywhere by creating the connected health system. And what that represents is there's data being collected at every part of the care continuum. And as we're collecting that data, what we want to be able to do is take that data, get all the insights from it. And then what we want to do is complete the circle, bring that insight back to the clinicians, back to the operators, so they can run the health system better, more efficiently, more cost effective, so they can treat our patients more effectively as well. We want to reduce length of stay. We want to reduce mortality, readmissions. So in order for us to be able to do that, we need data at our fingertips at the point of care. And so with that, we needed a modern data architecture. What we were lacking was the ability to connect data from all different sources. And what we also lacked was the ability for us to get that data in real time, analyze it in real time, get the insights in real time, and then deploy it back in real time. And this is really where we started looking into a partnership with Palantir. Foundry, it really acted as the operating system that connected everything and allowed us to be able to deploy not only real-time data analytics, but also be able to infuse.
Guys, I just want to reiterate and iterate and like really drill this inside of your brains. Everything starts with the United States military. And from there, we expanded. All research and development is paid for by the US military. What do I mean by that? We are literally paid to make things for the military. But then we take that a couple of years later and we bring that to commercial use case. That's exactly what we did with AIP. That's exactly what we did with Foundry. Foundry is piggybacked off of Gotham. So when they're saying real time, this means something. This means that you have information at your fingertips ASAP, right now. Not in an hour, not tomorrow, not in a few weeks. It's now. One single point of truth. Just keep remembering that. And this all stems from military. That's why the research and development $250 million contract that we got for artificial intelligence and machine learning research from the military is then going to translate to new products for commercial use in 3-4 years from now. And that's why it's almost impossible for a company like Snowflake, Datadog, C3 AI, all of these, Databricks, whatever, to catch up to Palantir and do what Palantir does. They do their own thing. Palantir is on another level doing their own thing.
Use AI and ML into our work streams so that we can enhance our decision making. And so we've created this platform that is good for our operations, our clinical practice, our finances, as well as our budding interest into research and bioinformatics. So in order for us to really get the buy-in for organizational movement towards an analytics platform, we recognized some of the challenges of the past. When you have multiple solutions and multiple leads pushing an initiative, you tend to find that our strategies and our movements become siloed in many ways. And so what we had to do was we set up a functional structure and we pulled in all of our executive leaders in the organization and said, here, look, we need to really unify on our vision and our thoughts around governing a direction for this organization. So we set up what we call our executive analytics steering. It includes most of our executive vice presidents and our health system presidents. It was there where we presented an idea and a strategy around let's unify all of our data systems into one, what Foundry, I guess, has called the operating system. Have all the data go into one place and then feed it back out into all the various avenues, integrate it into our everyday workflows. And so we really subdivided the strategy into 3 sections from that. Once we've identified the strategy and we said, here, Palantir is the right partner for us, how do we make the data effective and how do we actually make change happen in the organization? So we have an accountability wing, we have a steering wing, and then we have a governance wing. The governance really controls and helps us organize around garbage in and garbage out, making sure that the data that goes in is clean and standardized so that we can actually take the data back out and leverage it. The steering committee allows us to be able to help prioritize all the various projects that we have. And then the leadership governance is the third, probably the most important. It's our accountability vertical. As the data is coming in, we want to ensure that people are actually leveraging the data and that we're holding people accountable to it. And so it's a unique vertical that I don't think is done in many organizations, but it does allow us to hold ourselves accountable to the information that's at hand. And so that between all 3 of those verticals, that's really the structure that we had to create and in order to push out a strategy that was centralized and effective. So as we built out the strategy, we also recognized that the partnership with Palantir really was a two-way street. We offered our clinical expertise and our operational expertise in the healthcare sector. Palantir came in with their expertise in data architecture and the tools that would allow us to be able to deploy the models and the data to our operational and clinical teams. What we recognized was that with any effective partner, we would have to have capabilities that were built internally as well too. And so establishing an internal platform team was going to be crucial for us to succeed, that we wouldn't be 100% solely reliant on Palantir to do the development work, but that we would be able to collaborate between the two parties. And so when we set up our structure with Palantir, our platform team with Palantir, we recognized that Palantir offered expertise, but Tampa General also needed to be trained up and to skill up in order to be able to communicate effectively and deploy effectively. And so,
Want to say one more time that when people are like, oh, Palantir is just a consulting company, Palantir is forward deployed engineers, they're the consultants, they do everything for you. And very few people want to understand outside of the Palantir community that Palantir is not a consulting company. They have forward deployed engineers, both military and non-military and commercial applications, and they train you to be able to use Palantir for maximum efficiency. And you heard what the guy just said. He said, Palantir's expertise and our clinical expertise is what built the program that we needed, the platform that we needed, the software that we needed. Palantir couldn't do it without Tampa General, and Tampa General could not do it without Palantir. Together, through unison, they have a symbiotic relationship that builds a super highly productive and effective platform for their expansion plan, for their planned growth.
On the Palantir side, we have deployment engineers leads, we have engineering strategy leads, we have deployment engineers and data scientists working with our analytics leads. We have our data governance folks, we have data architects, data engineers, developers, analysts, and data scientists. And a critical piece for us on the TGH side was getting our integrations specialists involved in the project platform team as well. If our goal is to have a connected health system and to deploy these things in real time, it wasn't enough for us to develop solutions. We had to have the integration specialists to be able to deploy these solutions in real time so that the clinicians can see the information in real time. And what I've highlighted here is our deployment project manager. What we found is you can build the perfect tool, but if folks don't have the proper communication, don't have the proper training, and the proper education on how to leverage these tools, we would fail at the beginning. And so we are currently looking at putting together a deployment project manager in order to make sure that these projects are successfully enabling the customers or our clinicians and our operators to use this. So establishing the platform team really kind of came down to a handful of goals. We wanted to scale up and train our local team so that they could better collaborate and cross-develop with the Palantir team. We wanted the rapid iterative developments, and that could only happen if there was good collaboration between our two teams. Real-time integrations was really what necessitated the need for the integration specialists. And then the data governance alignment was absolutely critical. We were finding that solutions were built all over the system, and we had products in one category and products in another category. If our definitions and our processes aren't aligned, then we would lose the trust of our customers because one system might say one thing and another system might say something different. And so the data governance aspect allowed us to align our efforts between multiple parties. And then I would argue leadership alignment was critical at the beginning stages of this, that they understood the strategy, that they would support it, that they would remove barriers for us, and that we'd be unified, that we wouldn't be fighting internally with one solution versus another solution, that we had a very clear direction of where we were going. And so that created the space for the platform team to really build out their capabilities. So with the internal platform team, as well as the collaboration with the Palantir deployment specialists, we were really able to push the boundaries with Foundry and with AIP now. And so with some of the projects that we've done, we're really proud of one of the first few that we piloted with Palantir around our PACU, or our post-anesthesia care unit. It's in that project where we identified the need for better data at the point of care so that we can make quick decisions around where to place a patient after their surgeries. All
right, let's read this. Challenge: enable earlier, faster, and more accurate bed planning, reduce patient hold times, and improve patient experience and coordination between hospital units. Remember what I said earlier. It's coordination, one single point of truth between different hospital, different units, and individual patients. This is the solution, and this is the impact. That's what we care about right now. Challenge, by using Palantir, they were able to, the average hold time for patients decreased 28% from 5.8 hours to 4.2. This does not seem like a lot, but this is absolutely freaking massive, guys. This is absolutely massive. If they can do this for the NHS is going to be licking the butthole. Impact. Nurse manager time spent managing patients' placement decreased 83% from 1 hour to under 10 minutes. Let's just read that one more time, shall we? Nurse managers' time spent managing patient placement decreased 83% from an hour to under 10 minutes. Predictive model accuracy, 95%. Correct patient placement. Guys, this is absolutely freaking massive. So their model is 95% accurate. Their AI model is 95% accurate. Nursing, 83% reduction in output that they had to put in. And total time, 28% reduction. It's freaking massive, guys.
Identified an opportunity that if the data was presented forward and that a recommendation was made for where a patient should go, that we would be able to reduce the time that they would be sitting in the recovery unit. And so we did see a large 28% reduction in our hold times there. And then we also saw an improvement in efficiency in planning. Rather than planning a few hours before, now they're able to plan a day or a few days ahead. So that kind of built out a foundation for how we wanted to set up the other projects. So as we set up more projects in Foundry, we realized that everything is really connected to each other. A surgery project is connected to a staffing project. It's connected to a care management project. That one piece isn't siloed in one solution into another, but that we could leverage data from one solution to another. And so that really helped us actually during our hurricane response for Hurricane Ian. We had built a few solutions with staffing, with bed placements, and with throughput. And so those projects had development times of 3 months and on. And by the time we hit the Hurricane Ian, we said we needed this data, and we were able to rapidly deploy a solution within 24 hours, leveraging the ontology that Palantir provided for us, the connected health system, as we call it. And so that allows for building out a foundation that would really accelerate what we are able to accomplish in a short amount of time. And so we fast forward to our investments with Palantir and Palantir's investment in the AIP. We had spent a lot of time using Foundry on the operational side, but we look back at our vision and our mission of being the safest and most innovative and healing and defining medicine. And we identified that we really need data to not just make our hospital more effective or more efficient. We needed to make sure that how we care for our patients is the most effective way possible. So moving from a purely hospital 360 view to a patient 360 view, meaning the operations have to match the effectiveness of the clinical practice. And so with AIP, that opens us up to a whole world of opportunities. The unstructured notes that a clinician takes, those have been the holy grail of healthcare. A lot of the most important information is actually hidden in our notes. And up until this point, we haven't been able to unlock it until Palantir had pushed out AIP. And we've been very fortunate to be able to work with the Palantir team to recognize the potential of AIP. And so we broke out AIP into two different areas. We know we're collecting all this data in the EMR, whether it's clinical notes or medication notes or lab information. We want to be able to use all the different unstructured data to be able to identify prioritization for our patients. Is the patient getting the right things at the right time, as well as clinical appropriateness? Should they be getting what they are getting, or they don't need it? And you'll actually see that in our next slide here, where we look at the value of the connected health system, as well as us leveraging AIP. You'll see that we tried it on a project that we had already started. We have a sepsis care pathway management tool that allows us to be able to monitor inappropriate usage of antibiotics for a sepsis patient. What we were able to identify was that there were variances in terms of when a patient should really discontinue their antibiotics. We found that with our population, once we pushed out Palantir onto that population, we were able to reduce 13% time a patient is on antibiotics. And so if you think about that, that's a reduction in cost. It's also a reduction in the time that a patient needs to sit in the hospital. When we averaged it out, it was about 23 hours a patient didn't need to be on antibiotics. And so that
Yo, it's pretty freaking remarkable, no? Like seriously, think about it. Yo, Palantir literally saves millions and tens of millions of dollars. Multiply that by how many patients, by how many hospitals, by how many units, by how many departments. It's absolutely freaking crazy. And the deployment keeps getting shorter and shorter. Literally went from several months to 24 hours to give a solution. It's crazy, guys, right? Like we're onto something. We're not just full of shit. We're not just insane in the Palantir community. Like this is actually working. This is in actuality, not in theory. And that's the difference between us and Snowflake, C3 AI. They're all full of shit. They can't do anything. They don't have these capabilities. It's absolutely freaking massive. Palantir is an enterprise builder, an empire builder. I don't care who's laughing. Palantir is the real fucking deal.
That's a cost savings, but more importantly, it's a clinical appropriateness. Can you imagine being on antibiotics longer than you really needed to? And this happens quite a bit in healthcare. There's opportunities for us to decrease the waste that we have and decrease the clutter. So we did see a pretty massive decrease in a patient's length of stay, about 30% reduction in a patient's length of stay, which has cost implications not just for our health system, but for the patient. There's a lot of costs associated with every single day a patient is in the hospital. On the operations side, we've mentioned the 28% reduction in the PACU hold hours. Well, we also saw a significant decrease in our staffing ratio appropriateness. So the staffing ratio looks at the volume of patients that come in and making sure that we have the right number of staff that are assigned to each patient. We saw an improvement of about 84% in attaining the right ratio. Typically, it varies by unit, but we like to keep it from anywhere from around 2 to 3 patients per nurse. We were struggling with maintaining those ratios, but as we deployed the information on Foundry, we were able to really tighten that up. But it went from being around 2 nurses short to almost perfectly balanced. So it was a really big opportunity for us. And then finally, we're currently exploring some new use cases with AIP around our clinical documentation excellence. Are we capturing the right codes for being able to recognize revenue opportunities? And so we're using AIP to scan through notes, identifying if we've missed any procedures that we should have coded for, or the other way around, that we coded somebody and we billed them for it and it was inappropriate. And so we do think that there's some dollar implications to accurately code for a patient, as well as leveraging it for our.
Yeah, I'm sorry for keep interrupting, but I have to point this shit out. Look at this. The clinical staff ratio went down. So basically they were understaffed by 2, and now they're understaffed by 0.34, if I'm understanding that correctly, because they have more data. Remember, Palantir helps you 2 ways in data. Sometimes you have too much data and you don't know how to comb through it to make it useful, or sometimes you don't have enough data to paint the full picture, and Palantir helps. So Palantir helps in both of those. So the notes that this guy was talking about before, I know a few nurses, they literally say, they live and die by a pen and paper, and they take all of these notes that they said that it's almost like when we're changing staff and we're changing nurses and we're changing patients, the information that I write, like Adam, I understand this. But if I'm handing this over to Cheaps, for example, he doesn't know what the fuck I'm talking about. And Palantir allows that transition to make it so much smoother. So I think that's one of the ways that Palantir is able to possibly increase your productivity. Pretty cool.
Our clinical process improvement efforts. So I wanted to be able to just emphasize, we've hit a few key points in order to appropriately deploy an analytics platform at an organization and successfully do that. Some of the key success criteria for us to be able to do that really starts with senior leadership buy-in and alignments. If it's not part of the organization's strategy, it will struggle in terms of deployments and longevity. And in order for us to really rapidly accelerate our analytic capabilities, really that alignment effort becomes critical. The second aspect of a successful formula really is operational engagement. What you build has to be something that's used by the folks making the decisions. And the iterative builds that we did with Palantir and our team and the operations team really allowed them the opportunity to design a system that worked for them, and it would allow them to create the efficiencies that they needed. And then our analytics team having the appropriate training and appropriate skilling up in order to be able to work closely with the Palantir team and to help with the deployment. And then we had mentioned as well, the integration team is critical for that. We can build solutions, but if we can't deploy it in real time and the data is delayed, it becomes not useful really quickly. And so that integration team becomes a very important aspect of our deployment team. And so what we want to wrap up with is, with all the kind of various components, this really creates a strategic roadmap for us and how we would be able to leverage data and be able to compete on analytics in our clinical care and in our operational efficiency.
I mean, that was absolutely freaking phenomenal. If you weren't watching this whole thing, I can't really help you, but there's a lot of things that went in here that needs to be unpacked. The bottom line is Palantir has a small learning curve that's still much faster than any other thing on the market. But once you breach that learning curve, it becomes smaller and smaller and smaller, and you can deploy faster and faster and faster. People laugh at the forward deployed engineers, but that's a huge asset when it comes to Palantir. And Palantir actually works. For people to still doubt Palantir is absolutely freaking sick. To call it a meme stock, absolutely freaking sick, if you ask me. Guys, I'm going to get out of here. I appreciate everybody that signed in today. Thank you so much for the $20 donation. Thank you so much for the donated channel member. If you are a channel member, please make sure to watch the channel member videos. Thank you very much. Everybody have a great day. Shout out to everybody from the Wolfpack. I'm getting nostalgia, old school. I've been in this for quite a while, man. And yeah, I'm going to put this video up. And everybody have a great day. Palantir to the moon. We're just getting started. # fuck your puts.